Hello, my name is Felix Knight. This is my CS199 final project. It's called Creature Limb Builder. You can kind of already see what's going on. I have a procedurally animated creature here with some legs on it that, they are animated entirely through code. So I started this project. I had watched a couple of procedural animation videos that I really liked that gave me some different ideas. And I kind of combined them and synthesized them into a new thing. So I had this idea of a sort of spore-like workflow in the Unity editor where a user could come in like this and drag and drop body prefab into the world. Let's get this at a 90-degree angle. Rotate it down like that. Okay, this is good. Move this over here. Spin it around, and all I have to do is just parent these legs to this body. I can make some more just like this, and it will work exactly as you just saw. So there's really no extra setup. It's just attach the legs and you get this thing that's moving around, and I'm just controlling this with WASD. Really nice thing about this is it doesn't just do insects. You can do, let's do something really unconventional. Let's say this thing has 3 legs and it has some scripts on it that will figure out how it should move based on those legs. Now, if you do something really wacky like 3 legs, occasionally it has to kind of move its legs in this weird, inefficient way. You'll see its body bobbing up and down. But I like that. I think it's a little bit more realistic for something that is built in a very strange way. So that's kind of what the end goal was, like what I wanted those editor tools to be able to do for somebody that pops open the Unity editor and is creating a creature like that. So I'm going to go through and show you step by step what components I built, what they needed to do in order to get to this point. And then at the very end, I'll show you the actual playable scene from a player's perspective where they can mess around with some of the creatures that I was able to create using these objects. So let's start with the IK system. I think Unity might already have its own, but I just wanted to build my own. This is really, really simple. The leg just has a script that solves for the angles of a given polygon. In this case, it's a triangle. Or in a way, an IK system would solve for some polygon, but mine only does triangles. It could probably be expanded to other things if you wanted more joints. And it just plugs those angles into the leg. Nothing about this is physically based, so the leg will go clip through objects and stuff like that because the rotation is being set manually. Next level, this is super, super basic. This is pretty much the basis of the body. It just has a forward and back force, some damping on it, and torque to turn it around. And as you can see, there's no gravity or anything like that on this guy. Can I close the game? Yes. Cool. So now we get into the next stage of this. I've got a body with some legs parented to it, and I had to go through and manually place these targets. What do these do? They essentially give each foot a target, and it's a position that stays on the ground, and then whenever the leg gets too far extended, the target has a reference to it, figures out how extended it is. Once it reaches a certain threshold, it forces it to step forward and up into that blue target that's also grounded. So this is getting kind of where I want, and nothing about the body has changed here either. It's literally the exact same rectangle with forces going on it. Now it just has some legs attached, which is pretty neat, but this doesn't look very realistic. It's not bobbing or anything. It doesn't. The legs do, react to slopes, but the body does not at all, aside from getting screwed up and there's no gravity on it. So what do we need to do next is basically get some more physics going on this thing. So this Standup script is kind of the heart of the project. One thing it does is on the last one, I had to go through and manually set up all those targets, place them and set their references, which is a huge pain. This does that automatically, which is really nice, especially if the creature has a lot of legs. And it also utilizes gravity, so it automatically turns on gravity if it's turned off, but I have it checked there just for clarity's sake. But now you can see the body has some gravity on it. That stand-up script does a couple of additional things. So based on how many legs are currently grounded, how extended they are, it provides an upward force to keep the body in sort of an equilibrium so that it moves up. Oh, there's one thing I didn't mean to have on here, which was the body rotation component, but you know what, I'll just leave it on. So that stand-up component, the other thing that it does is forces the targets to step in alternation. So the front legs, the left leg might move first, and then for the pair behind it, the right leg will move. So you get this kind of alternating step. Not every animal in real life has that kind of gait, but to be fair, you actually don't really notice it a whole lot. But it would be a cool thing to parameterize later, like what kind of gait do you want this creature to have and have it set up that way. But it has to, you don't specify leg pairs either. It actually goes through each leg and searches across the body in that like z-axis to see if there's anything at a similar z position. The other thing that's going on here is it has a rotator script. So before, whenever you walked onto a ledge or something like that, the body didn't do anything, it just stayed where it was. Now what's going on is that rotator script gets the average up vector based on all of these blue grounded targets. So it gets an average up vector, and then it applies torque to the body to move it sort of to turn it in the direction of that target. And like I said, this has gravity, so it'll now actually fall off of ledges and things correctly, whereas before it wouldn't have. Another nice thing about the rotator component is that when there are a bunch of these in a level and it gets knocked over, which doesn't happen constantly, but it happens occasionally, the rotator actually forces it to like right itself, which is a cool thing to watch. One of the next things that I added that I was really happy with was some basic AI. So the movement script actually just has two parameters, two axes, but it doesn't take them from the player directly. It doesn't take them from the keyboard input directly. There's another component that just plugs the horizontal and vertical axes from the keyboard into the movement component. So it's really easy to set up an AI component that manufactures its own horizontal and vertical axes and plugs them into the movement script. So there's two different kind of controllers in that way. These are acting totally randomly. They just choose a different axis value for turning and moving forward and back every few seconds independently, and has no concept of where it should move, where it shouldn't, where other creatures are, anything like that. Just does what it does. So sometimes they do some funny things, but it works. I just wanted to get a bunch of creatures, creepy crawlies in the level moving around. Let's move on to the very last thing that I kind of managed to get finished in terms of like the actual creatures themselves. I had this problem where if the legs are facing directly down, the look at function in Unity, which is what I use to turn the legs toward the target, the knees would always face upward. So this was basic, just if the target is behind the hip position kind of that joint, then it faces the knee downwards. Sometimes when it turns, you'll see like the spider here. They go kind of all over the place. But for the most part, this looks okay. Whenever these get onto unstable terrain or terrain that has, kind of bumps and cracks in it and stuff, it doesn't work nearly as well. I'm not sure, but I only kind of finished this feature towards the end, so I didn't have a ton of time to figure out why I wasn't playing nice with the terrain. But that's basically the extent, by the time I got to that point, what I showed you at the very, very beginning with those different, with kind of creating a creature on the fly. That's pretty much what I got to, and that's what I was looking for. Then I wanted to build a player demo so that somebody could pop in and see what I've created. So this is going to have some creepy crawlies if you don't like, things like spiders and centipedes. You might not want to watch this. But basically, this is just a test environment to show I built all of these creatures in maybe 10 or 15 minutes a piece, something along those lines. These have a panel here associated for them, so I can take control. So now I'm moving it around with the WASD keys, and otherwise it just enables the AI component on it. It can also show you the actual debug for it, where the targets are at, where the body is supposed to be rotated. And I can spawn some more things. So I think the centipede is really great for showing like all of the legs kind of moving in synchronization. I think often look really cool. The horse is kind of what I was trying to get at with the last one with the quadrupedal movement, but you'll see that the legs kind of like bend all over the place. So the knee does face down for the most part, except when it's walking backwards and it looks really funky. But they kind of, go all over the sides, which I'm not sure exactly why that happens. I'm guessing adding some animation constraints so it can't, bend beyond this angle, and if it tries to go past that angle, just step the leg. Probably would have fixed that, but I didn't quite get there. In this panel, you can also kind of view a different creature at a time and destroy them. I have a biped to illustrate basically anything with 2 or more legs. You can just slap those legs on there and they work. This character also has, the legs are differently sized, so the proportions of the hip to the calf of the leg are different from a bunch of the other ones. So it can deal with kind of like differently sized legs in that way. I created this monster just to see what would happen if I like attached a ton of legs to the bottom of it, and I think it looks really good. I think it looks really creepy and spooky, which is exactly what I was trying to get. And then the very last one, I wanted to experiment with like a creature with kind of a plump body and like very, very tiny legs on the bottom of it. I made it move really quickly, so you can see it's booking it along here, which I love. It tends to get kind of like knocked over in that way. But like I said, each of these characters were about 10 to 15 minutes to make, with that same process that I showed before of just kind of having a body and attaching some legs. And then you can attach, whatever kind of decorations you want to the body. So it's super easy to do those things. In terms of other stuff that I really wanted to do with this project, I've mentioned the sort of constraints of the legs. If they get beyond a certain rotation, force them to step. I think that would probably improve, especially, let me view the horse real quick, right? This kind of like problem where they're freaking out and going all over the place. And then in this user-facing panel, I really would have loved for them to be able to edit an individual creature. So they click on, an edit button. It stops the creature and allows them to add or remove legs. And then they can, apply their changes, and then it plops that creature down, recalculates, where the leg pairs are and things like that, and goes from there. I think that would have been really cool. And then just especially as I started creating more of these like creepy looking things, I started imagining these things interacting with each other. So having an awareness of other creatures in the world, maybe there's ones that are like friendly or ones that are averse to one another. You could set those things as parameters. Having food objects in the world that they could reach out with an IK arm and grab it and eat it, or even reach out and grab other creatures and like disable their movement and eat them. I thought about how cool it would be, if I already let the player edit, like remove limbs and recalculate. Well, I could just decapitate limbs if I wanted to have some system where, a creature has a big like saw thing on the side of it. I'm thinking like the sawfish, right? Like run over and it chops the legs off and it recalculates. But yeah, you can see here like bumping into each other. And I have total hands off the keyboard. It's all just AI goofing off right now. But those kinds of like sort of sandbox interactions I think would be really fun. And just the whole componentized nature of it, like you can combine all of these different things in different ways. I just really like that style of programming things, and it obviously led to some, really crazy different results in the fact that I could experiment with them and make something that looks kind of cool, like very, very quickly and easily. It's a lot of fun. So I hope that watching this has given you some inspiration maybe to try your own procedural animation projects. I think this is a super fun thing to do. And once you have the code written, I mean, the sky is the limit in terms of what kind of creatures you can make, what kind of situations you want to put them in or whatever. And you can make stuff really, really quickly and just have fun and play around with it really easily. And I hope that maybe some of the more in-depth kind of techniques of, you know, how you keep the creature up based on how many legs are connected to the ground and stuff like that. Those are picked up from other GDC talks and stuff like that. The Rain World procedural animation talk is great. There's another video, I think, called 10 steps to procedural animation in Unity or something like that that really inspired this as well. So help you with, you know, any kind of procedural animation ideas that you have, or even if you just pick up this demo as a build and play around with it and see, you know, what it's like to spawn in a ton of eggs all at once and have them just run around and wreak havoc. It's a good time. So thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed.